Hello, thank you for clicking on my video. I'm Sharon from Grace's Neighbor Sharon, and I hope you enjoy today's projects. Let's get to crafting. This video is part of the 5 Under 5 DIY challenge hosted every month by Missy from the Crafty Cove DIY and Emily from Farm Charm Chic. Yes, that's me in the middle, honored and blessed to be co-hosting this month. Our theme is Christmas or Winter, tiered tray decor, and I'll jump in after the first project with some more information about the challenge. For now, let's get to crafting. Project number 1 is a twig tree. If you've watched my past videos, you may remember the seahorse, the twig seahorse that I did. I'll post a link in my description box. It's the totally same concept. It was a dupe from the Monarch Mom. She did a faux driftwood seahorse, and mine's basically the same. I just named it different. So the twig tree is going to be something that I'm cutting out of poster board. I checked the measurements and made a template with cardboard, and then decided that I wanted something a little bit stronger. So I used the cardboard template to cut out the poster, not foam board, that's what it is, sorry. And then the twigs are from that, I think it's like a willow wreath, kind of like a grapevine wreath, but it's a lot less firm, it's a lot less dense. It very easily comes apart and then breaks into pieces. And then there is sometimes a curve, or some of them just are curved in or curved out, however you want to do it. So you just got to like snap them, but not pull them apart, and that kind of flattens them out. They're going to go on this foam board with wood glue. That's how I did the seahorse, so that's how I'm going to do this. And it's just a slow process, but I really don't mind. It's kind of like putting together a puzzle, and you're making the pieces as you go. And I remember seeing the exact same thing when I was making the twig seahorse. So I'm just going to show you how I just kind of level it up, breaking the twigs as I go, and leaving a little bit ragged on the edges. I didn't want it to be like totally straight. And I'm not going to put anything on the top. I kind of letting it happen organically, and I noticed that none of the trees I was making for this video had stars or anything on them, so I decided that was just going to be a thing. So that's the thing. Yes, so I put this vinyl on the back of the foam board, but I wish I had a thought a little bit better about it. Normally I put it back on, and then if I'm bracing it with a skewer or something, I'll tape it and put a ribbon on it, but kind of didn't want a ribbon on this one because it was going to be more visible. The back was going to be more visible. So you'll see how I deal with that in a little bit. Here I'm drilling a hole in one of those thick wood pieces that I got at the Dollar Tree. And that's gonna be the base. I'm gonna put the skewer in it. It's a little bit too big. I didn't have my good drill bits with me, so I used the cheapo ones that came with my drill. It's a great drill. I think it's called DECO, and I'll even put it in the description box. It's from eBay, but the drill bits that come with it were not good. They broke. One broke off right in a piece of wood. Another one broke when I wiggled it a little bit. So I have the the Deco drill, but I went out and got some good cobalt drill bits. But in the meantime, I drilled a hole that was too big, and I had to put some hot glue in the bottom and some wood glue in the top. Then I realized about the back of the tree, so I just peeled the vinyl, the Dollar Tree vinyl back, and just kind of shimmied the screwer in there, and glued it back on with the wood glue. I didn't bother changing up the glues. And actually this worked really nice because it's wet for a little bit, so it allows me to smooth it down and get it the way I want. And then it starts to get gummy and then it dries up. So I just really like the timing factor of the wood glue. But there you have it. That's my twig tree. I bent it a little bit there because I wanted to put some hot glue on the front. The tree is basically sitting on top of the base, but the skewer is just like a balance. And it actually came out great. It's very sturdy and it's sitting nicely. And so I will give you a good look at this with all the other trees during the final reveal. The 5 Under 5 Challenge is an open playlist that happens every month on the 5th at 5 Eastern. It's hosted by Missy from Crafty Cove DIY and Emily from Farm Charm Chic. This month's guest host is me, Sharon, from Grace's Neighbor Sharon. Our channel links, as well as a link to the playlist, will be in my description box below. Let's get back to crafting. Project number 2, Christmas tree house. So I have one of those Dollar Tree house shapes, some bottle brush trees that I got at Amazon and Dollar Tree. I chose my 3 favorites, and those last 3 there are the Dollar Tree ones, and the ones in the bucket already are the Amazon ones. I wanted to do Oh Christmas Tree, but I just didn't have enough room, so I'm doing Merry Christmas, and it took me a minute to find all the letters. Once I did, I separated the background from the house frame, and I always do that using a utility knife. It's just what works for me. I sand the edges because I'm going to be reapplying them with some wood glue. I also took a minute to take the tag off the back there, and I just did it nice and slow, slowly peeling it, and I didn't have to do anything else. I just kind of took my time with it. And then I flipped it so the paper side is going to be on the back, and the nice brown side now becomes the background for the trees. So after I got it glued together, I realized I forgot to put the burlap on, and I really wanted burlap on this. So I did my little trick there where I pulled a strand of burlap out and it leaves a straight line. I cut that straight line, and then I just had to trim the burlap a couple of times till it fit. Once I was happy with it, I got my Mod Podge and I put down a nice even coat of Mod Podge. And again, it didn't have to be perfect because I'm going to Mod Podge on top as well. So I just wanted to get it so it wasn't globby. I pressed the burlap down, made sure I got it in the corners, and then I put the top coat on it. The top coat is what's really going to make it stick. And what I like about this is I can still keep working on this because it stays on pretty good. It just takes a little while to dry. Now I'm taking the wood glue, and you'll see me going back and forth between wood glue and Mod Podge. And just the wood glue is usually in the container. I pour it into container because the wood glue is hard to get the paintbrush in, whereas the Mod Podge, I can do it straight out of the bottle. So here I'm using the wood glue because the letters are wood and the frame is kind of wood, I think. Once I got that on there the way I like, I moved on to the trees. And you'll notice I did the letters kind of janky. I actually did that on purpose. I kind of liked how it looked. I put the middle letter on first and then balanced the other two out. Then you'll notice I put just half the bottom with wood glue and then the other half with hot glue. And I did the same for each of the 3 trees. The big tree, I kind of had to like push it down because it was a little bit too bushy for the house frame. So I did the exact same thing for the gold tree. Half the bottom with wood glue and half with hot glue. And I'll do the same with the small green tree as well. There we go. So now I'm moving on to the letters, and I'm only going to use wood glue for the letters. I just felt like it was going to be the best way to do it. I didn't want to worry about leaving room for the hot glue, so I just went ahead and did the whole thing with wood glue. You see me taking out the container there. That's how we know it's the wood glue. So I just kind of tried to make an even, you know, like an even bead of glue on there, even though I was using the paintbrush. And then, as luck would have it, the word Christmas fits exactly on the bottom of this house. Like there's no room to spare. So I did the dry fit, so I knew that it was going to work. So I'm just placing them on there, and I just keep pressing them down. Like they'll start to droop a little, and then I just keep pressing them down because the wood glue actually doesn't take that long to dry. And then I set it up like this to make sure it was even, and then I'll give you a good look at it again during the final reveal. Project number 3 is a yarn and jar tree. I'm using 8.5 ounce mason jar, this loop yarn, 8.5 by 11 double page of a music book, aluminum foil tube, and some white rocks. Now, it's hard to know exactly how to trim things when you make them up from your head. So here's a tip. Don't trim your tree without doing a dry fit first. I cut this way too short. Way too short. But I fix it. So keep watching. I actually don't realize it's too short for a while, so I'm blissfully unaware as I do the rest of the things here. The aluminum foil tube cuts really easily with the miter saw here. I just picked a measurement that was about as tall as I wanted the tree to be. And I'm making it for the top shelf of the tier tray, so it can actually be a wee bit taller. This is probably the only thing you should measure in this whole project. If I'm giving you any tips at all, measure this and then trim everything else to fit. So I'm putting some hot glue on the bottom of the tube, and I'll set that right down in the jar, and that's just so it doesn't wobble around while I put the stones in. Just putting in these few stones around the outside edges really gets this tube in there nice and tight, and it's not going anywhere. And see, I actually had to place the stones in, and it was not moving, so I set it down, and I'm like, oh. Yeah, okay, let's do this again. I used the cone to get started, and I trimmed it as long as I possibly could. And then what I did is I just kept sitting it down on that little tree trunk until the paper didn't touch the counter, and I could feel it sitting on the trunk. You'll feel the paper tree sit on top of the tube, and then you'll know. So if you don't feel it sitting on it, trim a little bit more set it down, and there we go. It's touching the top and it's off of the counter. And that's some information on that yarn. If you're interested in that yarn, I call it loop yarn. I bought it originally when I was in Amber Strong's crafting group. We made flowers with it, but it's been sitting in my stash and I thought it would make a good Christmas tree. So I just wanted to show you how I got started on the bottom. And try not to overthink it. Just keep going around the tree, and if you twist it every once in a while, you won't get those loops glued down all the time. But, you know, don't overthink it. Sometimes they're going to get glued in underneath, and sometimes you'll forget to twist it, and that's okay. It's a nice organic looking project. Like almost all the projects for this video are. So this is the repetitive part, little bit of hot glue, and then I'll do, you know, 2 or 3 times around, and I press it down as I'm going so that we don't get any holes, or so we can't see the writing or the music through the yarn. And I'm going to keep winding it around here, and I'll eventually get out of frame at the top right corner there, but fret not. I'm going to give you a good look at this tree on its own and on the tray with all the other trees in the final reveal. Project number 4 is burlap tree in a bucket. The bucket is one of those small ones that you get from the wedding section at Dollar Tree. The burlap has been in my stash for well over a year. And this is a fairly easy project when you find the right fabric or ribbon. It took me a couple of tries. You'll see my end results there. And finally decided on the burlap. I had no idea how long to cut it, so it was just kind of trial and error, which will probably work best for you as well. I measured the tree trunk to fit on the bottom shelf, so it couldn't be so tall as to hit the top shelf or have to squeeze it in or whatever. So when I finally decided I liked how it looked, I kept putting more and more on and pulling them together. And I did them all one length for now, because I wanted to be very sure about any trimming, because I didn't want a repeat of what happened with my yarn tree. So you'll see here I decided I wanted some more, and I just stopped what I was doing and cut some more pieces. And I wanted to just make the tree trunk as full as possible, so when it was full as possible in my eyes, I went ahead and put a dab of glue on under the top strip of burlap and under the bottom strip of burlap. And now I'm coming in and trying to cut a tree shape into the ribbons. Or should I say I'm just trying to cut wide at the bottom and skinny at the top. And actually some of the strips overlapped, so you want to be careful, like go back and make sure you don't have a long one tucked behind, because it'll end up looking weird. And then I'm going to do the same as what I did with the yarn and jar tree. I'm filling the bucket with the white stones. It gives it some weight. It holds the tree trunk and makes it easier to handle and makes it easier to stand up. So this is what I decide on. For the last little bit of this project, I'm going to embellish it with a bow. Oh, actually I'm going to embellish it with a finger bow, and it kind of like in a floral shape. It's kind of in a floral shape. I'll pop that right on top, and I'll give you a better look at the final reveal. Okay, for project number 5, I'm doing a little name tag tree scenario here with these name tag trees I purchased at Walmart. I have a piece of wood from a bundle I purchased from Amazon. I have the bottle brush wreath and that piece of wood from a bag of wood, chunky wood sticks I got off a Dollar Tree. So I'm going to start things off here by sanding the edges of the green trees, on the green side I should say, and I just didn't know when to stop. I mean, I liked how the edges looked so much, I just kept going and going and going. And, well, it's kind of an interesting look, so I'm like, okay, well, whatever I do to one tree, I want to do the other. I want them to be exactly the same. Just for the way I'm going to stage them after. So went ahead and sanded the other tree, and then I used a Cricut spatula to remove the price sticker and some sandpaper to get rid of the adhesive there. Then I took my Mod Podge and I gave each tree an even coat on the brown side because that's where I'm putting the burlap. I automatically will give burlap a top coat as well, whereas if I was using paper maybe or a different fabric, I might not use a top coat, but for burlap I just automatically top coat it. It's just the way the fabric goes. And all I did was cut a scrap, like a square scrap, and put the top coat on, and then I'll trim it afterwards. You'll see that in a little bit. And whatever you see me do to one tree, I will have already done or am about to do with the other. I believe this paint is oatmeal. I want to call it celery all the time. But I just wanted it to have a natural color, but you could leave it wood color if you want. That's nice and rustic and neutral, which is what I'm going for here. Actually, in all my projects, this video. Now, I checked on the trees and they're pretty dry. They're a tiny bit gummy, but I can work with them. So I trimmed off the edges of the burlap and then chose to put one of those bottle brush wreaths right in the middle. And a lot of my trees, I did not put anything on top, but this one I wanted to hide the slot where the name tags would go, so I made a shoelace bow and made sure to glue down the tails so it covered that little slot. Then one tree goes on the piece of wood and one goes straight on the little Don't forget to subscribe and give me a big thumbs up. See you soon.